The story begins with 3 men and a woman sitting at a table, drinking and using illegal substances. They are on the border between Mexico and California. 2 American men are buying substances from a Mexican dealer. At that moment, 3 armed men in masks burst into the room. Threatening with weapons, they demand the case with money. After handing it over, one of the men recognizes one of the robbers and says that he knows him. The bandit opens the man's shirt and sees a microphone, realizing they are undercover agents. The man shouts for them not to shoot because they are from the Drug Enforcement Agency, but the bandits open fire, killing them. They also kill the Mexican, his girlfriend, and the man guarding him. One of the bandits asks why they killed everyone, and another replies that the victims recognized him. Suddenly, they see the door slam shut and realize someone overheard everything. Grabbing the money and the drugs, they rush outside and spot 2 girls running away. They jump into their car and chase after them. The girls reach a bridge and hide underneath it. Unable to find them in the dark, the men decide to leave before the police arrive. Travis Johansson, a police sergeant, plans to serve a few more months and then retire for health reasons. He goes to his superior, who shows him a viral video of Travis beating a migrant worker and calling him a Mexican tramp. The chief reprimands him and takes him to a press conference with the mayor's team. The chief explains that during a drug deal, 2 undercover agents were killed and that 2 women witnessed it. The witnesses were later found, and they must be brought to the United States as soon as possible to determine whether they are witnesses or accomplices. Travis is assigned to deliver the women from Mexico, a mission that could restore his reputation and the honor of the entire department. During the press conference, Travis feels humiliated over the incident in the video. That evening, he goes to a bar where the same footage is being shown on TV. There he meets his friend Hilson, who also serves in the police. Soon Brinner, a former colleague who now works in Mexico, joins them. They talk about how they despise illegal immigrants who cross the border and then demand rights in the US. The friends try to dissuade Travis from going to Mexico, advising him to just retire. Brinner's 2 partners later join the group. The next morning, Johansson crosses the border into Mexico. He is met by federal officer De La Cruz. Together, they head out to pick up the women. Upon arriving at a women's correctional facility, they meet the witnesses, Leticia Gomez and Rosa Baranten. When the guards decide to hand them over to the Americans, Leticia becomes furious, shouting that the Americans will kill them. On the way back, Johansson calls his boss to report that they are on their way, while Leticia keeps repeating that they will be killed. Soon, a police car starts following them. The officers inside order them to pull over, but De La Cruz refuses. One of the pursuing officers shoots and kills De La Cruz. Johansson stops the car on the roadside. The other police car also stops, and the men begin firing at him. Taking cover behind the vehicle, Johansson returns fire and eliminates the attackers. As he approaches to assess the situation, he shoots the last surviving assailant. Rosa realizes that Leticia has also been killed. The sergeant calls his chief, saying they were ambushed, and asks for backup. Freeing Rosa from her handcuffs, he tells her to find a first aid kit to bandage his wound. Johansson collapses on the ground and, seeing the girl walk away, asks her to come back. A few minutes later, Rosa returns with the kit. She tells him that the bandits will arrive soon and that they must leave. The sergeant asks if those men were really police officers, and Rosa confirms that they were, the best in Mexico. He suggests going to a hospital, but she insists that it is not safe. At that moment, his phone rings. Rosa snatches it from him and orders him never to answer it again, explaining that the enemy traced them through those calls. If he answers, they will know he is still alive. Soon after, the sergeant loses consciousness, and the girl drives away with him. The sergeant regains consciousness in an unfamiliar house. One of his hands is handcuffed, and an IV drip is attached to the other. Across from him sits an unknown young man. Rosa and her brother, a police officer named Miguel, enter the room. They explain that the men from the day before were also police officers, but corrupt ones. A doctor managed to perform surgery and instructed the sergeant to rest for at least a week. However, Johansson is anxious because his superiors will start worrying, especially since Rosa smashed his phone. Despite his concerns, Rosa and her brother insist that he rest and leave the room. Rosa's mother brings Johansson some food and sits beside him to watch over him after letting her nephew go. Meanwhile, at the station, Brinner tells Hilson that everyone is talking about how Johansson shot police officers and escaped with a female witness. The chief orders that no information should leak to the press. Brinner offers his help, but the chief refuses, saying that Johansson will find a way out. Rosa brings the sergeant some medicine, and he asks to make just one phone call, promising that he can secure help from the States and protect her family. However, Rosa replies that the people who attacked them were the same police officers. They know she heard everything that night. The sergeant insists that a cartel was behind the ambush, but Rosa maintains that the attackers were American cops. Johansson refuses to believe her, which angers the girl, and she decides to leave. The sergeant asks why she is so sure the attackers were police officers. Rosa explains that she heard one of the masked men recognize one of the undercover agents. They used to work together, and that was the reason they were killed. After hearing this, the sergeant asks for a phone, promising to deal with the situation because the longer they stay there, the more danger her family faces. Rosa says she will think about it and explains that they are in her cousin Salvador's house. She cannot return to her home village because that's the first place they would look for her. The girl asks if she will truly receive protection if she agrees to go with him to the United States. The sergeant asks her to remove the handcuffs and promises to take her there himself. Finally, Rosa gives him the phone and tells him to call someone who can pick them up. Johansson calls his chief and gives him their coordinates. The boss says that the whole situation seems suspicious. Johansson explains that the girl is convinced police officers were present during the drug deal. Shortly after, Miguel brings the sergeant some clothes and invites him to lunch. He expresses regret that things turned out this way but thanks him for saving his sister. He adds that there are corrupt cops both in Mexico and in the States, but he himself remains honest. Meanwhile, Rosa tells the sergeant that he has been declared a fugitive wanted for killing police officers, and the news is already being broadcast on every channel. Johansson becomes furious, but Miguel calms him down and promises that once he recovers, he will drive him to the border. For now, the sergeant must remain hidden, and Rosa should stay there as well. Johansson insists that she must go with him because only she can help uncover the truth about the murders, and in America, she will be protected. Miguel, however, does not believe that is possible. Salvador takes the sergeant back to his room. After lunch, Rosa tells her brother that she has to leave, but Miguel strongly objects. He is sure that if she goes, they will find her and kill her. Despite this, Rosa tries to convince him that everything will be fine. Suddenly they hear noises in the yard, and when they look out the window, they see armed cartel members. Miguel tells Rosa and their mother to hide. Outside, the attackers shout that they only want the old man and the girl and will not harm anyone else. Salvador opens the door and shoots one of them. A gunfight breaks out. The cartel fires back. Johansson begs to be released, and Miguel gives the handcuff keys to Salvador so he can free the sergeant. Salvador runs into the room and, together with Johansson, shoots one of the gunmen outside, but he is hit in the back and falls. Johansson picks up a weapon and shoots the attacker who killed Salvador, then takes the key from him and removes his handcuffs. At that moment, another bandit bursts into the house to finish off Miguel, but the sergeant manages to shoot him first. Another criminal approaches the room where Rosa and her mother are hiding, but Johansson attacks him with a knife and kills him. The last gunman, severely wounded, gets into a car and drives away. Miguel tells the sergeant and Rosa that they must leave immediately. Rosa's mother gives her daughter all her savings so she can start a new life in the States. Before they part, the woman gives the sergeant a pendant depicting the Virgin Mary, a symbol of unity and justice. She adds that if he wants to fight wolves, he must become a wolf himself. On their way, they make a stop. The sergeant says he plans to call his chief and report that they will manage without federal assistance. Rosa becomes angry, recalling that every time he makes a call, someone shows up and tries to kill them. It was right after his last call that her relatives were shot in her cousin's house. Johansson assures her that this time he is calling his friend Brynner, someone he completely trusts and considers an honest man. Rosa asks him to tell Brynner to meet them at the location where they plan to cross the border. She arranges with a contact who will help them get there, and they schedule their departure for midnight. At the hotel, Johansson calls Brynner and asks him to meet them. Meanwhile, Rosa shares her story. When she was 16, she and a friend tried to cross the border to study and start a new life in the United States. But just 100 meters from the border, her friend was shot, and Rosa had to run for her life. That's how she ended up on the streets without documents. In the morning, Hilson arrives at their hotel. When asked how he found them, he replies that the signal from their phone call was detected nearby. Hilson says he did not come alone, and the sergeant notices that his men are already waiting outside. He claims that they will help them cross the border themselves because the Federals are under surveillance. Johansson thanks him, relieved that his friend seems to be on his side. Leaving the hotel, Rosa and the sergeant get into the car with them. On the road, during their conversation, Rosa notices a bracelet on Brynner's wrist. the same one she saw that night on one of the attackers. Remembering her mother's words about wolves, she says a phrase in Spanish, hinting to Johansson that they are corrupt cops, and begs him to believe her. The sergeant grows tense and tells Brynner that he wants to talk to him privately. The sergeant asks to stop the car and steps out with Brynner. He says that Rosa told him about the police officers involved in the attack that night. Hilson replies that this is not the right place for such a conversation, but at that moment Brynner and his partner draw their weapons and disarm Johansson. Hilson then admits that on that night they had not planned to kill anyone, they only intended to quietly take the money and drugs and then disappear. One of the men drags Rosa out of the car and brings her to Brynner. They say they'll take care of her and then leave. Johansson tries to reason with them, saying there must be another way, but Brynner replies that if he interferes and tries to protect her, they will have to kill him too. Hilson suddenly intervenes, trying to take away Brynner's gun, but Brynner shoots him. Without hesitation, the sergeant lunges at the second attacker, wrestles the gun from him, and shoots Brynner. A fight breaks out as the remaining assailant attacks Johansson. Meanwhile, Rosa attacks the wounded Brynner. Reaching his weapon, the sergeant manages to kill his opponent and then, acting faster than Brynner, shoots him as well. At that moment, the driver of the second car opens fire, but Johansson quickly takes him down. The sergeant goes to the wounded Hilson, who, asking for forgiveness, dies in his arms. After that, Rosa and Johansson get into a car and drive away. Back in the city, they find the group they had arranged to meet for the border crossing. Reaching the border, both of them rejoice, but soon a border patrol appears. Johansson explains everything that has happened to the officers. 5 months later, Johansson is awarded a medal for his service. He has managed to restore his reputation, both his own and that of the entire department. Rosa is present at the ceremony. During the trial, they were forbidden to communicate, but now her life has improved. She has settled down and is soon to receive citizenship. After the award ceremony, Johansson tells her that perhaps they should meet sometime. Saying goodbye, he hugs her. As he watches Rosa walk away, he calls out to her and invites her to have coffee with him. The film ends there.